So Games for Change is a non-profit organization, and the whole purpose was, how do we take this media, this medium that is just becoming more powerful as we go, and deal with the most pressing issues of today. So it could be human rights, it could be climate change, it could be spreading democracy. It could be actually any issue that you would deal with in documentaries, in non-fiction books.
What is it about games specifically that's a different experience for the player, the user, than a film when it comes to tackling these big social or political issues?
I think that at the core it's the interactivity. The idea that unlike any other media before, it's about you making the decisions. You are dictating the end of the experience. Even though there is a designer that put together the system or kind of the sandbox, at the end of the day you are going to create your own path, and it's going to be very different than any other player. That kind of loop of feedback, that you are making decisions and taking action and seeing the consequences and then taking another action, is very important to learning. It's very important in engagement. It's something that creates a whole different experience than being a passive consumer. That you can actually enter the shoes, walk in the shoes of someone else, and when it's someone completely different than you. So if you sit in Starbucks and in Toronto or Montreal, and then I would put you in the shoes of a refugee in Sudan, and I will make a very realistic experience for you. You might get to places in your awareness and understanding that you wouldn't even be able to get to with just viewing something from afar.
We are empowered inside of the virtual world, but how do we translate that empowerment into the real world? I'm sure this is part of your mission. When
I started, 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was all virtual. So it was really an isolated experience. What started to happen with Facebook, social networks, and mobile devices is that the link between the virtual and the real world is starting to be, it's a very close relations, and sometimes it's one click away from doing something in the real world. Even if you still sit on the couch, you can still donate money, you can still volunteer your time, you can still communicate with people on those issues. Now we see games that even go further to the physical world. So the whole experience is actually happening in the physical world, and sometimes the game is almost just like the layer that connects them together, but they're actually running in the streets, or they do stuff in the real world and document it.
What are news games?
I feel that news games are kind of a narrow definition of games, for a cause, or games with a message that says that what you're dealing with are current events. So you're really dealing with things that are on the news today, yesterday, maybe 20 years ago, but it's really happening now. And it's like this, in many cases, it's also about responding to things very quickly. I love those games because I think that, from what I learned from the things we created, news have many gaps. And they don't necessarily learn how to fill those gaps. And I think that games have the opportunity to do that.
Are games the future of news?
I think they're the future of many things. I mean, whether we'll call them games, I don't know. Maybe they will turn into something bigger, even in terms of the label. But I think they're the future of learning. I think they could be the future of training. I think they could be a future of the news. The future of how we engage with social issues. They could be a future of many things that we're now doing in a bit of archaic way sometimes.